What's good, guys? Welcome back to Small Talk on Head-to-Head Fantasy Basketball. And today I'm being joined by my boy Anson.
What's up, guys? Today we're going to be covering buy low candidates. This is going to be updated for December 5th. We're going to be going over players that are somewhat underperforming, and maybe you can target them for a trade. Maybe they're sort of undervalued right now, or maybe they could even be dropped if you're playing in a smaller league. So let's get started.
Let's get started on our first candidate here. We have Kyrie. So I know Kyrie has been on our buy lows before, and we still think it's a buy low. I just don't think this is how, or we just don't think this is how Kyrie is performing. It's just looking at his numbers, he's really been struggling, right? 29% field goal, 26% from the three. He has also been dealing with some injuries, foot issue and whatnot. But I think if, someone in your league is not unhappy or is complaining about Kyrie, I think you could definitely throw him a trade and see if they want to give up Kyrie. Because if you just look at Kyrie's number from what he is able to do, usually he averages about 5, 6 more fantasy points. Even with the Luka situation, I think this is still Kyrie's year for fantasy, right? I can easily see Kyrie be a top 20 player. He just needs to pick it up and get over this little shooting bump.
Yeah, he averaged 27 points last year. On Dallas and then 27.1 in Brooklyn. And you might think that, okay, maybe Luka is kind of trying to carry the team. Maybe it's now Luka's team. He's going to take over. But Kyrie is taking the same amount of shots he did this year compared to last year. Same exact amount as of right now, December 5th. He's taking 19.2. Same exact amount as last year. It's just that his efficiency is a little lower. Kyrie is one of the most efficient scorers we've seen, 51% last year. Previously in Brooklyn, 49. We've seen 47, 51. So he is shooting at 45, which is kind of out of his character from what we've seen for the past few years for Kyrie. We haven't seen a field goal that low since 2016 in Cleveland, which was almost 8 years ago. So we haven't seen Kyrie be this inefficient in a while. His assist is also took a little bit of a dip. So if his shots just go in, he should be, his fantasy points should be reflective of what he did last year, which was about 48.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. Let's move on from Kyrie. We have another reoccurring player that we still don't think is playing up to his level, Pascal Siakam. And I know a lot of you guys have been, complaining about it. Just because, some of you guys did also get in when we said Pascal Siakam should have a pretty good year this year. Obviously, he's not performing to where we want him to perform. But if you look at his numbers, you can start to see why he's really been struggling. 10% from threes the last 12 games and only shooting 40% from the field. I noticed that some of you guys, who watch the game, you guys can see the frustration Pascal is kind of performing. He's not playing well and he's really been forcing shots. And I think it could do a lot with the coaching. But overall, even if it was the coaching, Pascal's still struggling as well. So it's just not all the coaching, right? We've seen glimpses of him having great games, but at the moment, it just hasn't been really sustained yet. But our personal opinion on this is we still think Pascal has a lot of upside, and if he starts to turn things around, if you're able to get him for really cheap at the moment because Pascal's been struggling, I think it's definitely a really good investment in our opinion.
Yeah, in our personal Discord, there is a discussion where we have a Discord. If you guys didn't know, go ahead and join our community. People asked about trades, and one of the trades that were being asked was, should Pascal Siakam get traded for Julius Randle? And Julius Randle might be in a separate video for sell high because he's been doing pretty good recently. He was previously a buy low. He's not that bad, but he is doing very well. Pascal is not looking too well. So me personally, some people in our Discord community is choosing Julius Randle. Me personally, I would just stick with Pascal. I don't think we should just let a couple weeks determine an entire 82 game season. So this is not the Pascal we know, right? he on average he's at 48.7% career from the field. So you might think it's just a bad shooting night, but he's also not a 9.8% from three the past 12 games for the season, shooting 19% for the season, right? He's not the best shooter, but if he just makes, right, if you just do the math and he makes maybe at least one or two more threes per game based off his shot attempts and the percentage, that's about 10 fantasy points just off his three-pointers. His field goal is career low. And I also want to point out that there is some possibilities of him maybe getting traded to a more ideal situation. It seems like the coaching and his play style isn't necessarily the best fit. So he's kind of just doing his own thing. He's kind of just not really getting his shots in the flow of the offense. If he does get traded to a more ideal situation, it would really give him a huge boost. So, if his value is a 30 to 40 ranked player, I think you should honestly trade away someone who's ranked around there for Pascal. And I think it's a pretty good investment.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Right. At the moment, there are just trade rumors until he does, or if he doesn't get traded, just his fantasy value then. Right. So let's move on from Pascal. We got Zach LaVine, who is also on the trading block at the moment. Right. Current rank is 70. He's been really struggling. I personally expected LaVine to have a great year this year. Has been really performing, but in my opinion, I think it could be just him being unhappy in Chicago, right? He has expressed his own personal opinion, saying he wants to kind of potentially be traded. He's been dropping hints and things like that. But as of right now, I think he can definitely become better. And if he does get traded to a different team, that might also help him because right now he's not really performing to where we expect him to perform. Zach LaVine is easily a top 50 player. He's currently ranked 70. I think if you want to get him for low, I think this is a perfect time to grab him.
Yeah, definitely agree there. I think a lot of the Zach LaVine owners in fantasy right now, they might be very frustrated with Zach LaVine because it's kind of a roller coaster when you roster him. He's gonna have games where he has bad shooting nights. He'll only give you maybe like 10 fantasy points. We've seen that from Zach LaVine. And he can sometimes give you 60, 70, right? And sometimes it lies in the middle 40. But the last game we've seen from Zach LaVine was terrible. So it kind of leaves a bad taste um in the mouth of Zach LaVine owners, right? They might just remember his worst game. He's been very up and down. And even before his performance before he got hurt, wasn't that great, shooting career low in three-pointers, 33.6. This is lower than when he basically didn't even have a jump shot. So 33%. He's never shot under 37% um since 2018, and that was like one down year. He's shooting the worst he's ever shot in the last 5 years from the field as well, 44%. Last year shot 48%. So, and if he does get traded and he's in a different scenario similar to Pascal, it could really rejuvenate him. He can really get back to that 41.3 fantasy points per game average as he did last year. And it could even be more. It could even be more if he's in a more ideal situation because he averaged 41.3 last year, but that was while DeMar DeRozan was also having a great year. So if he's in a more ideal situation, it could even be more. But even if it doesn't, and he just kind of stays there, I don't think 35 realistically reflects how good of a player Zach LaVine normally is.
Yep. Let's move on from Zach LaVine. We have Darius Garland, and I know Darius Garland's been kind of quiet. A lot, in my opinion, I think he's probably one of the more underrated players of the season. I know a lot of people who drafted him aren't really expecting much from him this year. They're like, "Oh, it's Mitchell's team. Mobley's having a good year. Everyone else is doing well. Garland's has kind of been thrown in the back seat." However, I think this is a really good time to pick him up and just take a really closer look at what's been going on with his game. Right, he's obviously been struggling. 4.3 turnovers a game. That's about 1.2 more turnover from his previous season. He's also averaging 2 less assists. Okay, so if you add that up, that's about 8 fantasy points. Okay, 6 fantasy points. My bad. Right, about 6 fantasy points, and right now he's averaging 32. I think if his turnovers go down by one, averaging back 2 assists, and he's obviously a developing player, I think all those are in, kind of lines up for a good investment as well, right? If you guys want to get into Darius Garland, I think this is a perfect time. He's been struggling. He's been showing signs that he's slowly picking it back up. So if you're still able to get it out of someone's hand, right, because someone might have grabbed them, early or grabbed them later, and if you give them a good enough price or good enough player, they might just say, "Hey, take Garland off of me." They don't know if his games are consistent or sustainable. In my opinion, I think his better games are definitely sustainable. But as of right now, he's kind of under wraps right now, underrated in my opinion. So if you guys can get Darius Garland, I highly recommend you guys to do that.
Yeah, he had a really slow start, mainly because of his injury. And if you watch some of those games, it's really just him kind of dribbling it off his foot. He didn't really have the ball handling and the speed he previously had. It's slowly picking back up. He's getting used to it. If you look at his turnovers, they are trending down. He had a really, really rough start. He still has 4.3 average, which is really high, but his first 5 games, he averaged 6 turnovers per game. So then the turnovers are slowly trending down. If you look at his game log, there's more games where he's starting to have only 2 turnovers per game, 3 turnovers per game. So his ability to dribble is very critical, not only to prevent turnovers, but to also play make. And we see his assists starting to slightly go up too. So I think Darius Garland is a pretty good investment. And his assist numbers, honestly, recently it wouldn't look too bad. Besides that 8 turnovers against Portland, but we're seeing his assists really improve. And obviously, he's not shooting the ball well. So once he gets back to his usual self, once he's kind of once the injury no longer bothers him, I feel like he should average at least close to what he did last year.
Yeah, I agree. And even if he doesn't get to what he did last year, I think he'll still flirt with that number around, last year he averaged 40 fantasy points a game. So if he's able to get back to about 38, 39, I think that's very solid, right? Just considering that he's still improving as a player and his upside is a lot higher than, his floor. So I've definitely liked Garland if you can grab him. Let's move on from Garland. We have Asar Thompson. I know Asar is a rookie, of course, and if you guys just look at it, you're like, oh, I don't know, he's good. He's kind of one of those players that you're not sure if his stats are sustainable. It kind of reminds me of Herb Jones, where we're like, oh, he's averaging like 3 steals a game. But the thing is, Asar is actually really, really good defensively, and if he does start, in Detroit, I think he's going to be very, very good for fantasy, right? Even just looking at his games at the moment, he's still averaging 30 fantasy points a game. He did commit a lot of fouls, and it's just kind of how he plays. He's a very aggressive player. He plays really good defense. Obviously, he gets rewarded with steals and blocks, but the downside of that is he commits a lot of fouls too. So if he's able to work around that, play a little better, I think he's definitely going to be a very, very potential breakout for the second half of the season or even start breaking out within the next month. As of right now, not a lot of people have a star on their team. So if you're able to grab him or trade him away or try to trade him on, get him onto your team, I think it's going to be a very, very solid pickup.
Yeah, and if you look in the beginning of the season, the first month Asar was playing, he was averaging 29.5 minutes per game. And in the month of November, he proceeded to they really started upping his minutes because Detroit's struggling. They want to focus on their younger players. So Asar was getting 30 minutes against Portland, 25 against the Pelicans, 38, 38, 37, 32, 32. So we're seeing mid 30s, high 30s. And then recently, we're seeing only 28, 21, 13 minutes. But those games are because if you just, it's very correlative to his personal fouls. He got 5 fouls, 4 fouls, 5 fouls, 6 fouls against the Raptors. So if he can just get down to control, he's a rookie. He's a very fast learner, as we're seeing him really adjust to the league very quickly. So I expect him to get his turnovers down. He should kind of start to pick up like, oh, I can't foul that much. I'm only playing 20 minutes per game. And then I feel like a lot of people are also overreacting to Bojan Bogdanovic returning back to the Pistons. Yes, Bogdanovic is going to get some a good chunk of minutes, but I still expect Asar to get 30 minutes per game. I think there's two forward spots. Asar can also play shooting guard. The Pistons don't have enough players where Asar's minutes should get cut just because Bogdanovich is back in the rotation. If anything, Killian Hayes minutes might get cut a little bit, or some of these other players that just aren't as good might their minutes might get cut. I don't expect them to cut Asar Thompson, who's a rookie. They really want to focus on his development. I just don't think that his minutes will get cut. If he gets 30 minutes per game, he should, it might not be as good as that stretch that we've seen him have, but it should be about 30 fantasy points per game just because he's such a good defensive player. Even if he doesn't get touches, he'll always get steals, he'll always get blocks.
Yep. Let's move on from Asar. We have the final candidate. I know this guy's very controversial, Jordan Poole. And amen. All I'm gonna say is, if you didn't see our video when we saw ESPN ranking, you should go watch it, bro. Because Anson and I were all over Jordan Poole. Pause, but we were all over that ranking, dude. That ranking was insane. Okay, they ranked him like top 25. We were like, there's no way we'll put everything we got, everything we own that Jordan Poole's gonna be top 25 player this year. Okay, and look at this. We are correct. Give us our money, ESPN. But we just look at it really quick. He has been struggling. However, I do like Jordan Poole's upside. As much as I don't like Jordan Poole, I do like his upside. And I'm trying to put my bias aside and just look at his numbers really quick. He's shooting 40% from the field, 30% from a three, and we know he's a very good scorer. We just kind of need to see what his role is going to be in the Wizards, right? They're trying to put him as a number one option. But then if your number one option is shooting like these numbers, do you really want him as your number one option? So at the moment, it's very, very difficult to kind of see where we kind of rank Jordan Poole. But I think he's a good enough player that he'll pick back up and he'll do a lot better. He's just solidified. He just needs to figure out what he needs to do. Right. We see that his numbers are slowly getting better because in the beginning it was atrocious. Man, his numbers were horrible. I was like, this guy's droppable. Don't even man, I regret drafting this guy, but whatever. Let's see how he does in the long run. So because if there's other like league managers out there that are feeling the same way I was feeling, you guys can definitely offer a trade for Poole and be like, hey man, I know Poole's been kind of poo-poo right now. How about you give me that guy and I'll give you somebody else that round where Poole's kind of performing maybe a little better, right? And if you're able to get Poole, you guys will have to kind of like understand that Poole is gonna have games where he'll drop you like 10 fantasy points, but then he'll go crazy, like 2 games, drop you 40, and then he'll give you false hope, and then you're like, oh my god, this guy's good again, and then he's gonna drop you like a dud, and then you're gonna be like, okay, back to reality. But as of right now, I think he can definitely do a lot better. They didn't just trade him for no reason, and I also know that the coaches are looking to potentially trade him, and they're trying to build his trade value up. He's shooting like this is not giving any team any reassurance whatsoever. So they're definitely going to try to get him to score more, get him some runs, get him some buckets, get us inflate his numbers a little bit so they can package him in a deal and send this guy away. Because in my opinion, I don't think he's ready to be the number one option yet.
Yeah, we try to warn you guys. Top 30 was ridiculous, but I honestly didn't think Jordan Poole was going to be this bad. I in our personal rankings, I believe we had him. Both of us had him around 50 to 60 to start off the year. I didn't think he'd be. I mean, besides his upside, he'd probably be droppable in most leagues. He's only being held because of his upside, because we do know he has talent. He just doesn't make good use of it on the basketball court. He's very inefficient. So that's the main reason why he's still in a lot of rosters, but I still believe in the upside. It is still hard for me to believe that he's gonna do worse than he did last year. He's not playing with a lot of talent this year compared to last year. Last year he was sharing with Steph, Clay, Wiggins. This year he's somehow doing worse. There could be arguments made. I kind of pondered around the idea of maybe Jordan Poole will be worse because he's not playing off Steph Curry, right? So Steph Curry's creating a lot of shots for him. Draymond Green is creating a lot of shots for him. But in the Wizards, there's really no one to play make and create shots for Jordan Poole. And because he does have a lot of talent, And he's really, it's him or Kuzma in terms of shot creation. He's gonna attract most of the attention on defense. So he's being guarded a lot differently than he was on Golden State. In Golden State, everyone's attention was on Steph, everyone's attention was on Clay. On the Wizards, now everyone's attention is on Jordan Poole. It's almost like now the difficulty, if you're playing 2K, the difficulty he was playing on All-Star. Now he's playing on Hall of Fame because everyone's defensive awareness is just locked onto Jordan Poole. On the Wizards, there's really no one else to focus the defense on. So, and Jordan Poole, I don't know him personally, but he seems very stubborn. It doesn't matter if all the defensive attention's on him, he's still going to do a spin, turnaround, fadeaway, or I don't know what he does, but he's going to try something, and it's kind of reflecting this 134 rank. That's why he's averaging 25 fantasy points per game, because he's just not shooting the ball well. It's the main reason why I do think it's a buy low regardless is because I don't believe that his points per game will be the lowest it's been for the last 3 years he was in Golden State. And he's only played 3 years of significant minutes. So this is basically the lowest points per game he scored, lowest field goal, lowest 3-point percentage. And surprisingly enough, it is the lowest assist, which I thought his assist would actually take a boost because he should be getting more usage on the Wizards, but his assist is lower than any of the years where he got significant minutes in the Warriors.
Yeah, and I think that will wrap up our buy low video. You guys don't have to agree with us, right? It's kind of our opinion. We just want to share that with you, who we think are buy lows. Man, if you guys give on Jordan Poole, I don't blame you guys. Okay, I'm gonna say that right now. But in our opinion, we think Jordan Poole can definitely do a lot better. At the moment, he's proving us wrong, but hopefully by the end of the season, we look like geniuses. I think that should wrap up our video. Is there anything else you want to add for them, Anson?
Yeah, make sure you guys join our Discord. We can join in the conversation. If you guys disagree with anything on our list, you can either drop a YouTube comment, you can go in our Discord. If there's a specific trade, maybe you're looking to trade for one of these guys, you want to trade for LaVine, Jordan Poole, Darius Garland, any of these guys, you have a trade idea, go ahead and drop it below. If you got a trade request from someone else in your league and one of these players are in, or any player in general, you can always ask us. We'll try our best. We have lives outside of this YouTube, so we're kind of busy sometimes, but we'll try our best to get to your questions.
Yep, sounds good. Sounds good. And yeah, we'll see you guys on our next video. Take care, guys. Good luck and peace.